Hello, Navigator. Thank you for joining us once more for this conversation. We are back, and as usual, I never sit alone, and neither do I ever converse alone. I'm back here with our usual crew. I've got with me today our very own Uncle Bay. In case you don't have no Bay there at home, we have a Bay here for you. Hello, Uncle Mawetu.
Hello, Vivacious
How are you,
Viwe.
Bay of the Nation?
It is an honor, it is a pleasure, it is a privilege to be here. But I do apologize that but today I have a bad hair day, so please allow me to have my Dora on.
Wow, what does that look like for you? Like bad hair day? Like I didn't expect that, but I'll let you live with your bad hair. Okay. I don't know what that means, but we also do have a very bright, that very full of life Nuluntu. Let's begin our conversation today. The names we carry. The names we carry. Today we're going to speak about lineage, and lineage particularly as it concerns.
Yeah.
We like to push it to the right, to the end, to the edge. We love hosting these conversations that not a lot of people are talking about them, and yet they affect all of us. Families, modern day families, are under a whole lot of, I wouldn't say attack, because it's going to seem a bit aggressive, but there are challenges facing our families today, and they're forcing conversations. They're forcing conversations about lineage. What is it, What is lineage to you? And I know traditionally when we discuss lineage, this is something that has been passed on through the son, the boy child. That's who we get to continue with the names of the families. But in a world where we are electing not to have izindlu for trying to have a boy, what do we do? And I'm here to have this conversation with you. And my way to traditionally, and I know across global cultures, the surname, the clan name, and the rituals, they are passed on through uvundle, omhle, you become then the future of the family.
Yeah.
And through you, descendants that shall carry the name forward upon. Almost dismissing the fact that maybe you're not the oldest child in the family.
Yeah.
But you are born with girls, which I have the privilege of understanding and knowing because I know you.
Yes.
But what do you make of that? Is it something that you feel should be preserved? And you must remember my opening remarks when I said families, I think for the first time, and we will go into what the nature of the issues are, but they are finding themselves with a bit of instability. Who gets to carry the name forward? Can it just be attached to the boy child? What pressure does that put on the boy child? And also, when the boy child does not come and that does not live to the expectation, then what then becomes of the family? I want to get your views before I continue.
Well, I think it's a beautiful tradition and practice that boy children should carry the names of their families, without saying boy children are the most important in their families. And sometimes...
I'm sorry for coming in, but the fact that they carry such a responsibility of carrying on the name, does it not maybe suggest in more ways than one that they are actually the important child in the family? Because I don't want us to say, not to say they are important, and yet the act itself communicates their importance. I want us to interrogate what you mean by that.
That would be a skewed understanding, because there are many, the thought structure does acknowledge both genders or both sexes. And it understands that they are defined within their roles. For instance, in decision making, it's not only boy children who are actually called along, but they are there to fulfill a certain role in family gatherings and so on. But they always do it with the counsel of their sisters, of their mothers. For instance, when a king rules, he rules with the wisdom of the mother. All right. But we don't say it's a girl child that carries the family name. It is the boy child that carries the family name, but within the confines of the mantle of that family. All right. Every family on earth is carrying a certain mantle. So it is up to that boy child to protect that mantle. And every family has got its own set of blessings and curses. All right. So it is up to the next generation what blessings they want to inherit. Ideally, they should inherit all the blessings. and see how they can narrow down on the cases.
I hear you. I hear you, but we are still going to unpack that.
Yeah.
I want to
I know I
say,
was waffling away, but
no,
I'll
you
try and
weren't.
stick to
You
the.
weren't. I think you were speaking factually to how I think an ordinary person understands issues. But again, we are not trying to be ordinary in every aspect. Hence, we are seated here. We're trying to move the conversations forward. And there's nothing wrong with holding traditional views in any sense. And I do want to maybe make this disclaimer before I come to you, Nolun, to that. When we host this conversation, ours is not to maybe argue or to fight with status quo, but it is to assist in opening up our minds so that we may also just become ready for what for whatever that presents itself as something that will hold true for the future, and I don't know any change or any revolution that has ever happened without first being without the reality of conversations around issues. So coming to you, I know that when we come to birth children, the reality of it, if we are to suspend culture for a second, is that as a biological phenomenon, there is a 50% DNA representation of the mother and another 50% representation of the father. Should it always be? And I know that if in the South African context, if you're a woman and you birth a child without being married, that child carries your name.
Yes.
Right? You have the right to call that
Your
child by
maternal
your
name,
surname.
yeah.
But I'm just trying to say, can we not expand it further? Because as biology proves, whether the child is birthed within a marriage institution or not, the reality is that within that child, there is representation of two people fully,
Yeah.
without any prejudice to any parent, whether they're in the institution of marriage or not. And there's a new trend, which I came across upon research for today's topic, which seems to suggest that maybe legally the world is starting to catch on. There's this new wave where kids are now taking or given, or the couples sit down and say, which surname must this child take? And in other instances, you have children that take both the mother and the father's surname. What are your views as far as that's concerned? Is it progressive for us to think that way? Or should we preserve what we know and take on the father's name, clan name, and so on?
Look, it is progressive. You think in a case where, as you said, a child that's born out of wedlock, they then take the maternal name, the clan, and everything. But then a child that is married, born into marriage, they have to then take the paternal surname. But here's the catch, giveaway. When we are Africans, we acknowledge that umntana uphume emakhayeni amabini, kulo nina nakulo yise.
Yeah.
So when they then do the enchantments or the calling, they will call, if this child, now I, right, would then have to call on to those that are gone. I will not just call Aban Maglotato Khatebe. We start with the maternal, Tbizo Baba, Tbize Okhatebe. And that on its own, it shows that as Africans, right, we then acknowledge that a child comes from both families. So both families, because it concerneth this child, need to be acknowledged. But in actual fact, in reality, we don't. We do it in practice. When the practicing of imisebenzi and all of that is done, it's done. But now, if your children your daughters would then say, no, ewe singuvundle, but, and they call on their mother's clan. The deep sigh and the breathing.
Look at you.
It's that it becomes very controversial.
We caught him red.
So business does like nina up. And yet, if we are then honest, a child is built, the father gives the child an identity.
I see.
Which is an important part. But then the mother gives the child a belonging. Right? Which is equally important. Because as you move into the world knowing that you are not one thing. You are not one thing. Andingomakhatebe kuphela. Should I then meet uXaba, I know that this person in my veins and my bloodline, ukhona. In my DNA, bakhona. You know? And if
I wanna interrupt you, and I wanna interrupt you
also
because the facts of it are that yes, you are a culmination, may I say, of those two people, and as such, there is 50% of utata, and there's 50%. But I'm saying in practice, you know, there are things that communicate that, you know, in the names we carry, in the clan names we carry, and I'm saying in a context and where we find ourselves, where we're suddenly having young ones carrying double barrel surnames, ekatata nekamama, or having a single surname by choice. I'm not saying now, utata umntana ubalekile and you know, ngumntana intombi lona. I'm saying by choice, as a couple, we elect to buy abantwana bazawubiza le fani yako wenu, you know. And unfortunately, I mean, I've seen husbands, although not in my immediate circle, where uma wethu uyachata pha no Viwe, then uma wethu becomes mawethu Sitsamba Mngambi. And as much as you laugh, no, as much as you laugh,
I'm not laughing. I think it's
Is this now the child that becomes a Sitsamba Mgambi?
I'm saying we are living in a, you know what, the question of identity, you know, is a question that has been coming out strongly, because there is at least an agreement that whoever you become in the world has got to be anchored in you knowing who you are. And people then no longer take this issue of identity as a matter of, I will call myself Ngesfani Katata naturally because he's the father. I can now incorporate my mother's surname. Or my way to marrying Viwe can decide. He carries a double barrel. I carry a double barrel. You know, he becomes Mawetu Sitsamba Mgambi. I become Viwe Mgambi Sitsamba. Do you understand? So, in other words, there is a shared basis for identity. It's not just because one carries protruding genitals, and by that they then create the identity for us. It's coming in together from a perspective of we are two people, whole people, and we get to determine how we are seen and how we identify in the world. And that is my question to you, that with this trend that's coming up, right? And what's your view? Is it something that is progressive? You've said yes, but I needed to be sure that are you responding to that particular thing of this identity where you carry the name actively? Double barrel mawethu.
Let's agree. It is progressive, right?
It looks like you're trying to convince him away.
No,
the way you're looking at him.
I'm just itching to say something.
Speak to him. I do allow
and
you
I'm
to
exaggerating
Let's
my
agree
patience.
it is progressive, right? It also requires an evolved person. I think at some point I had a mind bender there. It requires an involved person to say, I will take my wife's surname
Chisa.
and my surname. And our kids will take my wife's surname and my surname.
Yeah.
So if you
almost seemed like you were cringing there. Are you comfortable?
I did at some point.
Okay.
Because hence I said I had a mind bender, right?
Yeah.
Because navigators, I was raised in what today is deemed as a patriarchal
Society.
where
The man.
you took the surname of the man. When you are at the people that your kinship, you share the same surname. You are told, ungowalapha. When you then say something, susimela ngento zakulo nyoko, which then differentiates that, oh, okay, I'm here. Then there's my mom's side. So, okay. And let us be honest. Even we still have those conversations where, you eye roll. So this is why I'm cringing that I am not that evolved
Yet.
Oh.
I feel
like
No, I have to admit I'm not that
I like
evolved
that
yet.
you do, but also
Yeah.
just want to maybe add commentary that you strike me as a very evolved person, and at least you've demonstrated how evolved you are in other aspects of the conversations we've hosted with you. But I also want to maybe come in there and say, I think you over-imagine evolution. You know, I think you over-imagine. And that sometimes when things come to you, you know, an evolved person, it's in how you interact with the information more than having conclusions on topics, you know.
Okay.
So that you are open to it. I don't want you to discount your evolution. Okay, we're not moving backwards, forward ever. Okay. Now I want to come back to you, and I want to say to you, I want to come back to Wes. Wes, so let us imagine this. We've already established biologically that we have a 50-50 ratio DNA representation when we have a child. And that's reality sits with everybody alive, right? But there is those ones that have passed on, which we refer to as our ancestors. How really much do you think ancestors care about the names we get called? So in other words, how much do you assume that it is important to those who have passed that your kids be referred to as abantwana bakwasizamba? You know, are they really attached to the name? Or is their representation within your kids already confirmation that they should, you know, do their ancestral role if there is any ancestral role to do? You know, is it the name as important, you would imagine, to you and to those who have passed equally? In other words, I know that the dead do not carry much of an ego. What do they have to show? You know, I know that the dead are the most, I wouldn't want to go into that because state of the dead is a very debatable topic. But I just want to test that how much, where do we meet with our ancestors in terms of names that we are called? Do you think they attach importance to that, or is it us with our egos that tend to want to see that?
I think I'll speak for the world of the living. It's us who sort of elevate our ancestors to a point of veneration, right? Because we are thankful for the legacies that they've lived, all right? If you are being told years on that your great-great-grandfather was a good man, you want to carry on with that legacy, such that some of us in our generation, we name our kids after our forefathers because of a certain prestige or a certain image about themselves that they had built.
I want to come
And
in
we
there.
respect that so much.
I love that.
Okay.
I don't want to disturb you, but I want you to balance me. That when we look back in our history and we find that there was a great good man,
Yeah.
we might also look into our history and find out there was a great good mother. There was a great good grandmother.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What then happens in that instance?
We
Do
still
we honor
practice.
the women
Yes.
in our lineage?
There are
that
women
were-
who are
that were
named
that
after their
great?
grandmothers. It's a pity that you can't give a boy a female name.
Although you
You
can.
understand? Huh?
Although you
Look,
can.
some of them are unisex, but then I've hardly heard of a female Mawetu. Actually, I have. I have heard of a female Mawetu. But they are just in our setting. I've never heard, even in other cultures, I've never heard of a female John, for instance. All right.
No, but can we
Yeah,
exclude
I'm just
the
being-
Caucasians just for obvious reasons, and stick to us as Africans? Can we? Because John,
For me, I'm going back,
Okay.
right? Because remember the topic was the boy child and him carrying the family name and so
Yeah.
on. I'm saying if we are to tweak it and change it and modernize it because we want to realize identity, what identity is lost? In my view, there's no identity that is lost. In fact, the more we try and change it, the more we re-emphasize that it is the boy child that carries. Because what is your name?
it is.
It is Mgambi, right?
But my name is Viwe.
Your name is Viwe, your surname is Mgambi.
Yeah.
So you are carrying your father's name. So if
I
a
am
child is
carrying-
Sitsamba Mgambi, it's a man's name and another man's name. So what are you trying to prove exactly?
Please say that again. I feel like you've caught me
So-
unprepared. I don't
so
like
I'm
answering
saying-
questions when seated here.
I'm saying, okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Talk to me.
When I'm asking you questions, I don't expect you to answer. I expect you to understand my
think.
thought structure.
I love it. Thank you.
So we have a Sitsamba, right? And then we have a Mgambi.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying it's a father's name versus a father's name. So you are saying you want a female child to carry their name. Whose name? Her father's name. Is that what you're saying?
I want to come back to that. And
If the mother was,
okay,
if the parents, in what you're saying, if the parents then of the mother were wedded, if
Yes.
they were not, then she still takes the mother's surname. But still, I see that it takes a man and a woman to make a child. So
Right.
whatever surname this child would be taking would have initially started with a man. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
No,
exactly
but
what I'm
no,
saying.
but that's a very linear way of looking at my question, and I want
Okay.
to and I want
Break
to
it down,
I
break it
want to
down.
come back to you that at the context in which we are speaking, we're not
Right.
speaking in terms of ligama lenkwenkwe eli that we use ligama lomntu oyinkwenkwe. Here we're discussing lineage in the context of family, where whoever carries that name is a male, right? And we are now saying we want to check the validity of that, and by saying, what if then I also get represented? Because I carry Umgambi. Yes, that it was a boy's name, but I'm a woman who carries it. I walk into the world carrying my surname, right? And the minute I come together with you for the purposes of reproduction and whatever else, companionship, then when you officiate, there's almost an expectation for me now to drop mine and to pick up yours. So that's the
'Cause
level
then
I'm
I
asking.
belong to you.
You know, well, in fact, I don't want to offer an opinion yet. Let me keep asking questions because I know there is whilst we are looking to find ourselves, I've a deep conviction that change of surname when people get married is something we need to really give the respect it deserves by making sure we interrogate it. And we also understand what it does to those that are expected to do it. I wouldn't ask you that question because, of course, you never have to change your surname unless you join in on the wagon that we are on. Because
Guys, what do you mean I never have to change my surname? Do you know how many boy children are raised under their mother's names? And they are still fine. They are normal. They get to marry and they carry on with their mother's surnames. And their children's children carry their mother's surnames because it happens that the boy does not come from a fully or a mother and a father, background. They were born of a single parent,
We
right? Who are
understand-
still using her family name.
we
right?
understand that.
And this boy carries on with that name, and his children and their children
We
carry on with
understand
that name.
and we also that's also again not part of what we're discussing, because when a child is born by a single parent, naturally we've given that disclaimer they will take their surname. But when we are given a choice, because that's what we are discussing here, the choice of choosing what surname I carry
Yes.
when I marry you, the choice of choosing. Now I'm talking with us in a marriage institution, not with ifall, and there's even the negative connotations around having a child as a single parent, which is a topic for another day. But the choice between what surname I use, let alone the fact that I expect you to take my own surname as well, because why can you not? Are you
Because
clear on what we're discussing? Because I think I was just saying that just make sure we're on the same. We're not discussing abantwana bentombi. We're saying now here as
Abantwana
equal
bomtshato.
as equal adults that are deciding we want to have kids. We want to have kids, and first we are going to enter the institution of marriage. Siqala apho, because we're discussing.
for me, I would have a problem to convert into your surname, because that to me signals a shift from a patriarchal thought structure, which I do not believe that patriarchy is wrong.
Okay.
I do not believe that patriarchy is wrong.
Okay.
Misogyny is wrong. Sexism is wrong. But I don't believe that patriarchy itself is wrong. It's just from a point of understanding that a man is at the helm of every family.
I understand.
the leader.
You see,
As a leader.
Okay.
Right?
So I
And-
wanna-
and that does not define a man as the one who is domineering and dominating in decision making. He's got to help.
I understand you, and I wanna extend directly to Onolund by saying, you've taken quite a bold stand, which I respect. That patriarchy for you works, and patriarchy
I think it
for
works
you.
for everyone, doesn't it?
I don't know. Does it work for
It's not
everybody?
broken. Patriarchy is not
Where do you
broken,
sit on that
guys.
conversation?
I want to bring, before I tell you where I sit,
Yeah.
I want to bring a scenario. What happens to a household of, there was a grandfather, right? And this grandfather did pass away. And in his lineage, in his loins, all he could give was girl children. So the girl children then have girl children themselves. There's no male heir, or there's no male in the family, in the immediate family. Mhlambi, pa kude. They could be males that they come to. But here, omama babezintombi, bazala thina sizintombi, nathi sizele intombi.
Who
Do we then-
continues with that lineage of that family?
Yes, I'm just thinking in that part.
Who
Yeah.
then continues? Because the reason
Look,
why...
I like Noluntu's questioning.
Yeah.
Right? And there are families like that.
yeah.
There are families like that.
But who gets to continue?
Some people have inherited their father-in-law's wealth because they married that daughter. By default, he had no sons. All right? And somehow the seed of that man is continuing to procreate. Okay?
How? But doesn't exist in the books.
The
Because
embryo.
kwayintombi yakhe,
No, intombi yakhe izawuzala
ufana
isizalo. Eh?
ithathe ifani yakho. Nabantwana bakhe bathathe ifani yakho.
She can do that.
And
if
then the
she
lineage
insists.
ends. The lineage actually, okay, this is very interesting because the lineage of that person ends with her, the mother. So if I would then say, Dungospoga, right? So I didn't have a brother. I'm the only, or I've got sisters, right?
Yeah.
So when I then marry this guy who comes into the family, akazi bangosiphuka masuza bangusdzamba, right? So now ilineage yakwaSiphuka iphela ngam.
Camakho.
It continues with usdzamba. Then there's a change. Now it becomes if we are good at history, we write our family history, which navigators, it's very important that we have these, because generations to come will not know okay,
How did
kwaphuma
it
khu-
become
yes, how did it become where it is? So initially the wealth was from this lady.
From the Sipukas.
Yes, and
but
then-
this wealth got married into
to
the
the-
Sidzambas.
And then there's a transition and a transfer of wealth from Sipuka to Sidzamba. Right? Now, Sidzamba doesn't give me
A son.
a son.
Now
I have girls with Sidzamba.
what then happens?
Then whoever
You
comes in,
see who gets lost in the... You see generations of
No one.
hard-working
No one.
families. Sipukas get lost because there is no son to carry the name.
Yes.
But their work... And
and then it moves to
Guys-
Sidzamba, and the Sidzamba as well will get lost.
There is one
I
episode.
do want us to qualify this because I think it rests a lot on how we define what legacy in lineage is, right? If we can get there, because for me, my understanding is that in a lineage, the legacy of a lineage is the person who becomes the legacy keeper, the
Yeah.
lineage keeper, the person who remembers and who
continues.
knows with the values of the family, who understands the stories of the family, where the family comes from.
Don't make eye.
And it can be, and I think it's my submission, although I try not to have submissions, but it is my
It's
submission
okay.
that
It's a conversation, so
a,
you are allowed.
a lineage keeper, the person who keeps the values of the family, naturally does not have to be a male child. Because if we confine it to how the genitals are structured, then I think that's why we will find ourselves with so lost. Why are you smiling? I feel like I have to keep you in check because
I think this is why if you were a role of a female in a family, like a role gatatobawo,
yeah,
it's very important.
absolutely.
And it is the most
Identity.
underrated role.
kuthi uyathakatha
No.
udadobawo
Kuthiwa
like
akafuni-
udabawo uguga kwakhe xa engathi uyashwabana uyasimonela sonke. It's just it's the saddest thing ever because everything that's attached with wisdom, with longevity.
It's a role that people love to hate. There's nothing. It's a
But nabo
compliment to that
rahadi
role.
man bayakwazi buy a lot.
Guys-
Exactly.
Y'all need to
Rahadi,
water your
Because they
evilness down.
understand their role and they run with it. And they do have the support, direction, and admiration. Because their role is understood, it's very strategic, right? And there are things that sort of like family disputes that, entangle us in families. And then the Brahadi would come and actually get to solve those. You know, get to solve those. They don't use the cleanest of the language. They don't have the calmest of demeanor.
No, they
But
don't.
They're
they will
not
solve
the,
it.
they don't also don't have the mannerism that's required sometimes.
Absolutely.
they
But they get
wouldn't.
jobs done.
They wouldn't. I don't think
They
the
get it
role
done.
is to have the mannerism, and I don't think the role is to take everyone with kid gloves, because family history is, guys. I think this is where we lose it. If you would take the British, they can trace their ancestors and history because there's someone who records it. So just like, and I always say, I say this to my family, I say, guys, it's important that every disease we know. If we are people that have heart diseases in the family, that must be known, because in 10, 15, 20 years' time, or 30 or 100 years from now, a child would suffer from this. But if we have it written down, if we have it told through the ages, through the stories, we know, but akho nto entsha apha, you know? Now, udadobawo is given lineage. Uyazazi uba amasiko alapha.
But Utatobawa, I want to come in. I
Guys,
want to come in on
also
the
wanna
role.
come in.
I want to
this
come
is-
in on the
This
role.
is too tasty, man.
Wait.
can't wait.
I want to come in on the role kaTatobawo. And the fact that uTatobawo could also be umakoti kwenye indawo.
Yes.
Do you understand? And where do you get, because oTatobawo bantlahlo mbini, there are two types. Ukhona untombi ekhaya, you know, the one that has never left home. Ukhona uDadobawo othwala iqhiya, ohlala emva kocango komnye umzi. Do you understand? And I'm not quite sure if the richness of the values of the family are embodied within that human being. Can we honestly talk about preservation in that context? Because lo mntu naye unenyamanye amasiko ala mzaze kuwo
But
ngoku.
they
kaloku Viwe,
compartmentalize.
lawa namasiko ufike khona lana akhula naye, ukhulela kuwo. So the values zakokwabo akasozazilahle. Uyayazi into uba utatomkhulu bani wayesithi xa kwakugulwa into ethile konke kuhanjwe kuyofuna into ethile kubizwa umuntu othile xa kwingxaki idispute enjena utatakazi bani utatomkhulukazi bani wayedla ngokuthi.
I understand.
They are given that. So now here's the thing, humans are humans. They can manipulate a situation to serve them. They will want the power, because I actually believe the role kaDadobawo is the most powerful role in the family. It is the most powerful role in the family, because even naloxa ibhayiza, she is the one person who would close erumini athi jonga uyabhayiza. U-A, u-B, u-C, nguye umuntu ozakwazi ulanda obrother bakhe to sanity, from insanity to sanity. Now, because endile, it does not make her less of umntana welakhaya who has been given the history yelakhaya. It's just that apha khoyo akakwazi exercise the knowledge.
I understand. I want.
We can talk about. I think I was quite intrigued when you said the British people document their history and their family lineage.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start doing that, but we should not negate the current knowledge systems that we're having. It's not that our history is not recorded. Our history is recorded, and it is passed down to generations through storytelling.
Your family history.
Everyone's family history. It's just that the challenge with that is the dialectic of remembering and forgetting, which can be found as well in documented history. If I say my father's boy child was, instead of saying Mawetu, I say Lonwabo, you know, then you are distorting that information already, but it's recorded. But similarly, this one also does have its own gaps, to say if it's done through the tradition of storytelling and passing it down. If I forget the name of the child, then off is the, documentation, No, he had another boy whose name is now not remembered, but he didn't have any offspring and so on and so forth. This one had so many girls, There is always a way around this. If I can, you said we must stick to African setting, right? We've spoken about the British. Now allow me to speak to other.
No,
Did you know
absolutely.
that in Kenya there was a king and a woman? The Kenyan tradition, right? This king, the founder of the Kikuyus, the Kikuyu himself,
Okay.
right? There are 12 Kikuyu tribes in Kenya. Now, it is because that king had 12 girl children. He never raised a single boy child. And each of those Kikuyu traditions are named after those. If maybe there's I'm going to make an example.
They are named after?
They are named after those girl names, those 12 girls. There are 12 Kikuyu tribes named after the 12. Just like Jesus had 12 disciples, or maybe there were Levites in the Bible, Abrahamic people of Abrahamic faith, and
Yes.
so on. Similarly, on the same micro congruency in Kenya, right? There were 12 girl children of
Of the
this
12
Kikuyu
tribes
king.
of Israel.
Yes. And then each of the Kikuyu tribes is named after those. No, actually 11, not 12.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Remembering and forgetting. It's 11 girls. He was a king. You see, the legacy is there through girl children. They didn't stress.
I do want
about
us to
things.
come back on the question.
So there's
of,
always a way around these things.
I do want to come back on the question of legacy because I don't want to act like it never came up when I was growing up. When I was growing up, when my parents thought lightly of it, it really did offend me, you know? It did offend me when my parents spoke about us in a way that suggested that aba bazakwenda, you know? Only son nango. Therefore, only son gets to inherit everything, right? So not only is the surname being passed down, there's also this expectation of somebody ozawuma umzi, right? And it's being said pre-testing who has the capacity to do so or not. And now as a girl child growing in that environment, in fact, actually, let me diagnose this. No one does tickish boxes chata. I think as parents, let's be mindful of what we say around our kids. Because I think from then on, I would have been pre-conditioned to a destination of mine that ekomyumzi.
Kodwa ingcwaba lakho lisemzini.
Buye kwajikeleza i-earth, son. Shayu, turn around, I'm back. But I mean, without even having tested who has the capacity to do so. Now, let's fast forward and say, okay, look, initially, boy kids were supposed to inherit the lands, amasimi, indoni. Okay. Now we've got girl kids that have joined the economy, however we did, because evolution allowed for us, revolutions allowed for us to serve a purpose in society, not for us to get our own money. And we are landowners. Can we clock it on that?
We are landowners.
As women, we're landowners.
Yes.
Can I pause there? It almost seems like I'm saying something you disagree with. So do you want to come in?
So we own the land.
We
Our
own
land
the
is
land.
back.
Noba usikelwe indawo was
Noba linxiwe incinci.
but you are a landowner.
Oh, in that context. Okay.
And there was this was not something that was always like that for women in the past. That's why I'm highlighting it that women can own land now. Want to test it?
Oh yes, there's evolution. There's human. Well, we surviving through a world of human evolution. So whatever laws and regulations, they are meant to accommodate that facet of human evolution. You know, which is why I believe let us not be stagnant and use solutions of when human evolution was at infancy, we still use what was used then. No, we evolve, we move with the times.
I love that because that what
We
you're
move
saying,
with the
sir,
times.
does suggest that culture does have a room to evolve.
Culture
forward as
is
well.
not static.
I love that.
Yeah, it shouldn't
because,
be.
Culture
Because
is
I
not
wanted to
static.
come back on your patriarchal views
Right.
Yes.
on society, but
Yeah.
I'm also picking up that there might be forward evolution within your thoughts as well through this conversation, because I think we're meeting you now at a different point where you are saying culture can evolve. Because my question, and I still want to
can.
get it out of you, that
And it's evolving nicely. It's evolving nicely because we have
I just
riveted-
thought you were cruising nicely with culture. Guys, this is a conversation, of course. We're not arguing. Hence, we can laugh in between because these are just views that are being thrown here. But do come back to me because I thought you enjoyed patriarchy.
I still do.
But you need to stand somewhere because we are calling for culture
No,
to
I'm
evolve
saying
forward.
even now there is evolution, but there's still patriarchy. There is nothing wrong. I don't think we should make men weaker than they already are. It will make our society vulnerable. That's just my view.
Can you imagine empowering a girl child to take lineage?
Guys,
To
girl
take
children
lineage.
have always been empowered.
No,
right?
but you
At
can.
various stages.
I think it's
At
the
va-
recognition of it.
If you go back to Cleopatra and
Which world are you talking about?
Queen Nandi, guys, females have always had a role, a key role in society, particularly
silent
in African
one, Weza.
society.
silent
and
one.
there are laws that have been changed. In the past, the girl child could not be an heiress to the king, right? Such that uba ungusibonda welali.
Can I ask you a question?
Right.
Which I want you to contextualize because I want you to use it to explain your views. There is a notion that law is catching on, ne? Right? And culture somewhat has to be dragged along, but it will eventually get there. In the context of South Africa,
Culture has always moved.
Okay,
Culture.
let's test how you feel in this context.
Okay.
That ngoku ndingayomlobola umfana. And if navigators that would ever be a thought, I'd promise you it would be in the preservation of my lineage. I stand on that, right? I'm not saying it's something I will do, but I'm saying it would make sense for me to preserve lineage, to go find a makoti or indoda.
Ekoti, not
Afika
Emma.
athwale iqhiya emnyama noba unxibe isuti apha ekhaya. Do you understand? And that's a society that's had it work for its social structure, to make sure that we're not just standing on names, but we're standing on something more stronger than that, right? Right, Wes?
No,
And-
I don't understand. Are you basically saying you want roles to swap?
No.
Actually, I want to ask, guys.
Are you
about-
guys asking me?
Yes,
Okay.
because
No.
because
We just want to be clear.
I
so
just
that
want
you
to
go along
understand
with the
because
conversation.
mna, I think she lost me apa ilendoda inqube ikhetshemiya
Exactly.
Yes.
Ufuna sithini sibe nabafazi.
suit. So I think it lost me there uba imake ithini role yalendoda xa ilapha emzini.
Okay, guys, maybe
Open quotes.
maybe the
Emzini
Kechemiya
wayo.
part is a bit exaggerated. Angawuthwala umnqwazi wakhe,
Don't castrate us.
but nguyolotyolweyo, isn't that castration already? Because the law
is.
Okay, so in some
We
cultures,
agree.
in some cultures, guys, remember in some cultures,
Yeah.
the father of the bride or the girl, iyahamba, ne, iyolobola kulomkhwenyana. In some cultures, it's done where it's the parents of the girl, then they pay the dowry
Yes.
to the guy.
to the guy.
Yes, but the woman still takes the guy's surname.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but
That's
guys,
what I mean. It's
but you guys are
because
very,
the guy carries the seed.
you guys are very selective
Yes.
with what you are willing to see.
Mm.
There is also in society pockets of people,
Mm.
like I said before, that as a man, as I marry a woman, I also take her surname. Do you understand?
As a man,
As
I marry
man,
a woman only
you
to
marry-
take a
you
surname.
You take the surname, ube ne double barrel.
And sakhaleli navigators is not double barrels ke zisibhalele zithi ay spamandla abhale taking a double barrel.
Okay,
No, it would be
but
interesting.
Let's be realistic and let's bring it home a bit. South African law has expanded. Men can be loboled by women. So in your patriarchal understanding,
Is that what it says?
it is.
What I know is that a man can now take a woman's surname. I am not aware that a
But the
woman can
lobola-
pay lobola.
All right.
No.
We can limit it to what you understand because I also don't know where the source of this comes from. It is just a general understanding. But if the law is saying you can take the surname of a woman, surely by basic understanding, if we are to translate it as we know it, that would also mean uitata lafani either by agreement or ulotyolwe. Surely not.
Or by
Yes?
force.
Navigators, I don't want us to get us wrong. I think the questions we're raising are just merely to make sure that we expand the space. We make sure that we create conversations. We'd love to have you join our conversation. Share your thoughts in the comment space. And remember, respect is the bare minimum. I think we try, even though we disagree fundamentally on some of the aspects of the things we talk about. But I mean, we try and keep the conversations very above board, very respectful. Our questions on culture are not to say we do not acknowledge the values that they've given us as humanity. It does not mean that we want tradition to somewhat fall in importance, but it is for us to widen our thinking, because for everything that exists, there was a reason for it to exist. And truth, as I understand, is universal. Truth is truth, whether you are dealing with it as uviwe or as a
Right.
pastor or as a traditionalist or any other person. Truth should stand true.
Truth.
Should stand true at every question. And as I expand on that comment, and this is something that Nolondu may have said earlier on, that within other cultures, you get dowries paid, and I know that it's within the Indian culture or people of that descendants, where in actual fact it is the woman that pays imali on to the
The
husband's
husband's family.
family. And the fact that that as a concept is not universal for all humanity, it means there is adjustments. You have to remember that some of these things were formulated as a means for survival. Put the boy child in front. When there is a war, let the boy children be. But it didn't mean that the women that were left behind had no role to play within that war struggle. Example that I've just used now. So us questioning, and I'm saying this particularly to my very patriarchal, loving co-host, that when the questions come around culture, it's not a matter of saying we do not respect the structure that culture has given us, but we also understand that for anything to survive extinction, it has to be flexible. That which does not bend breaks. And unfortunately, that also applies to culture and tradition as well. Unfortunately, you've
It applies
agreed,
to patriarchy.
particularly to patriarchy.
Yes. So we must preserve it so that it doesn't die.
But I wouldn't really agree, because you must remember whatever we want to grow has to be beneficial for society. I think
Of
when we
course.
decided that racial segregation was a problem, yes, there were people that wanted to protect it, because anybody who benefits from a system will want it to survive.
Oh,
right?
yes.
So I understand how maybe patriarchy serves you, but it is not, I don't want to call it unfair, but it does not subscribe fully to the principles of equality. No human is better.
Okay.
Okay.
No human is better than another human. No human is
Yes.
bigger than another human.
Of
We
course.
all have and should strive to create a society where one's happiness is not based on another's unhappiness. And unfortunately, the reason why we push back against patriarchy is because in certain aspects of what you enjoy about what it does, it also carries so much injustice for the other people. And
Does
we
it?
always know that those that benefit from it will want to protect it. So there's nothing that we are surprised by your love for patriarchy. But we have to keep opening it up. With your permission, sir.
Look, I do not. I will never encourage human rights abuses. Okay. At any given time, I would never encourage misogyny. I'd never encourage oppression of women. I'd never encourage sexism. I don't think patriarchy promotes sexism. I don't think patriarchy promotes the annihilation and the subjugation of one gender by another. I don't think it
I
does.
love
that.
what you've just said.
Yes.
And we always say at the
And
principal
please
level,
never
we
ever
agree.
quote me saying that men should always
Would you take my surname?
in a patriarchal society. How do you expect me to answer you?
I'm testing whether on how fluid your patriarch, what you've just said now, that why would you not take my surname?
Because it means I am subjecting myself under your authority. Yeah.
And
For me, that's problematic
because
because I have to be the authority, the lead.
Why?
Maybe authority is not the name.
Can I-
It's
can I
not the
ask
word.
the
asking for women to be included isn't necessarily asking for men to be removed. It's just a mere question of asking, can lineage be extended to fully embrace the girl child? Noland?
Yes, I believe it should. And as you're saying, I remember. I again, I'm not a scholar in scripture, but the birthing of the Messiah, right? As much as Mary lineage is not written. They've said Joseph beget and all of that. But actually, the person who had the direct lineage from Rahab up there, it was Jesus' great-great-great-grandmother. It was Mary. So in to answer you, V,
Yeah.
most times we can say the female is the unsung or the unrecognized person in this. But they carry the lineage. They carry the lineage, whether it's a lineage of grace, whether it's a lineage of, what's the opposite of grace? They carry the lineage. Because grandparents, remember grandmothers, what do? They love the child. They coddle the child. What do mothers do? Mothers love the child. Mothers nurture. They're nurturing. And they give off the lessons to the child. Before this child then becomes a man. And then the father then starts giving manhood lessons. But the first initial foundational lessons they are given, including manners, are from the mother.
I understand. Look, I think for us to even attempt winning at this topic going forward, it's just maybe my suggestion. We are not here to complete any conversation. Starting it, yes, for sure. We're not here to complete any conversation, take everything from A to Z.
Yeah.
But I think what is important for us and to take away from today is that, yes, there is a structure which I think we enjoy, or some of us do enjoy.
Or we're familiar with.
But
because
there is the reality of daughters that carry the lineage forward. There is the reality of sons that do not live up to the current patriarchal standards, that fall short of carrying the values of the families forward, that crack at the pressure of remembering what the family should be about. And in spaces and in instances where daughters take up that responsibility, and I'm not one to say I take the lineage forward, don't judge me wrong, but I'm one to say, sometimes we ought to be realistic to the society we live in versus the society we imagine. I think in our heads, it is safe for us to assume that every boy child is ready for leadership. I've seen it crack. I've seen the cracks from within people that are married and want to uphold that when logic does not dictate it's possible for that man to lead that family. So leadership is not something that you can genuinely always attach to a male child, right? And the wisdom of ages has been carried to girl children. And all we're asking, and I want to shape this correctly and appropriately and to make sure that as we close out, there's a clear understanding in what the message should be from here. It's the start of the conversation, not necessarily the conclusion of it, that unfortunately we ought to open ourselves up enough to live outside the principles in our heads and understand the realities of living life on this earth with the realities of daughters that are able to carry forward families. And there's no bigger job than somebody who assumes the responsibility. Rights are there for everyone to call out. It's my right because I'm a boy child. But can you assume the responsibility that comes with it? I think that's where we are found challenged and we are found lacking. It is a gap for us to close. And that gap requires for us to be honest enough within ourselves. And if we are honest enough within ourselves, it takes collective consciousness to move forward societies. And I want to believe that this society was never built to make sure that it protects the ego of just one gender. Equality is not just equality when it serves one party. It is equality when both parties can meet at a point where they can be functional.
Take a girl child to work.
Educate a girl child.
I appreciate girl children that are
educate a
standing
nation.
in the gap. Right? Can we all agree?
Yes.
That we will not negotiate equality with men as it pertains to the emancipation of women. We will take it.
I can understand when you say we need to have the recognition of a girl child much more accentuated. But we cannot argue that it is not recognized. In our spaces, in our workplaces, we see women on the rise. there are female presidents. There are female presidents even in a continent that is being touted as patriarchal like Africa. We've had a female president and she did extremely well. We've had female presidents running. Our parliament is constituted mostly by women, which surpasses far that of America. You know, so
I think
we're not getting it wrong.
With you saying that, I'm just recalling a conversation I had with a friend of mine who's been divorced, and she's suddenly realizing that now that she's divorced, right, she's back home. There's so much that she has to do around her home, right? And she's then realizing the pain that even if men funupin and chat, and because
yes.
and
There's so much responsibility.
There's
for
so
me
much
at home.
responsibility now, and unfortunately, as much as I would want my younger siblings, my brothers, to take over that responsibility, but I know they're not going to rise to the occasion.
And that's the reality of many
and
families.
it is. And if then ndiyayeka lonto, and then think those two punks will rise to the occasion, it means umzi wasekhaya uyaphela.
In front of your eyes.
You see, that's a different what you call altogether. But we'll talk about it.
No, I want you
when
to
the
come in
time
on
is
it
right.
because it speaks exactly to what we're trying to talk about.
Women are gifted in such a way that when men fail to be in their rightful position, women take over.
So women must just be on the bench.
So we wait.
No.
They must be on the bench to come and substitute a poorly constructed man who is not able to assume full responsibility.
We're not talking about men today, right? We're talking about women. But I'm saying, right? I'm saying in spaces where women are in charge, especially at family spaces, let us be honest, in many times than not, right? It's because men are found wanting. If they were operating in their full capacity as men, they would not be malfunctioning. It is when men are malfunctioning, then we're saying, women, no one is here to do it for you. Step in and do it. If I fail in my duty as a father to instruct my children well, then a woman must step in. You know? If I'm being irresponsible and I'm a wanderer and a philanderer, a woman will step in. In most cases, women go to an extent of overexposing themselves because men are in the wrong position. In fact, I'm calling men out here who are guilty.
I was about to say that
Who are
it's
guilty.
it's a call out, and it's also and it should actually also be a challenge that says the male seed is very important. I'm not saying the woman is not. Don't hear me wrong, navigators. I'm not saying as women we are not equally important.
No, we understand you.
But the importance of a man, and which has been degenerated and watered down in these days, the importance of a man. When a man understands their role and who they are, right? There's no misogyny, there's no patriarchy. They just lead. By leading, it means they also acknowledge the woman that is there to help them lead. Because you don't get to the finish line alone. Even people that play relay, you have to wait for the baton, right? So it is equally important for in my view, in my personal view, navigators, it is equally important that whilst we can talk about the woman taking the lineage, it's because, as you're saying, the men did not step up. But we do need at some point in time to have these honest conversations that say, sure, you're feeling overwhelmed. So does the woman feel overwhelmed. But we are nyanzeleka because you're not stepping up to the plate. Sure, you don't have the awuphiwanga mandla, or you look after your parents, you look after your home, and so you just decide to be a vagabond, right? So the female now has to be the one, as ngoku, towing making sure that the home is running. And when they then take iwonga loba ndim indoda apha ekhaya, right? Because indoda siyibona kantoni? Ngezenzo.
You see,
Ngezenzo.
that's why I was saying maybe I'm using the wrong words. Maybe I'm saying it wrongly. Maybe I'm saying it offensively. Do not fight patriarchy. Fight toxic masculinity.
No, but they are in certain
Not similar.
instances,
They're
in
not
certain
similar.
instances, patriarchy supports male toxicity.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Okay, I think that's going to be a
Topic
of
for
its
another day.
own topic for another day. Because clearly, navigators, as you can see, we are ending this episode clearly sitting on different sides of the table. And ours, as I said, is not to complete conversations necessarily, but to open them up. And I think reality has pushed us to a point where we recognize that the world we're living in is forever evolving, whether we are comfortable with it or not. It did not come today, that suddenly a man can take the woman's surname. It's something that we are existing with. And part of that challenge is some of these traditional things that go with it. Who pays the lobola? And if anything, my understanding is that ilobola was never about the money or the value. It was about the commitment. Now, if the man is able to show commitment, surely the woman should be able to show commitment. It can't be something that's just attached to men. We too do carry our own agency, and our own commitment can be expressed in the form of ilobol. I'm not sure where this world is going, but I also know I love it. I love it when things are just changing. I love it when we are getting challenged out of our own comfort zones. I love it when we are living with the uncertainty of, oh my God, what is going to happen? As a futurist, I can imagine a world in a couple of years where I shall return, of course, if reincarnation is the order of life. Come back and do lobola just for me to tick that box, because why not? Navigators, it's been an interesting topic. I want to say thank you for disagreeing with me through the whole episode. This has been very uncomfortable, but deliciously uncomfortable. May we all learn
Thank
from
you
each
for
other.
causing trouble.
And I participated, and I mean, I might seem like I was a bit hostile for this one, but I know for sure that every view needs to be expressed. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. Navigators, do like our page, press that subscribe. Guys, keep us talking. Talk about it. Tea time at work. Tell people. Spread the word. Navigating Life with Viwe. 6 p.m. every Thursday. We're here at Sunshine. May we see you here next week. Thank you very much. It is a wrap.
It is a wrap.
It's a wrap.